In the Severance world, Ricken is the true evil.
And the Outies are so much less interesting than the Innies.
Double P Podcast presents Milchick Men, a podcast about Apple TV Plus's show Severance Season 2. My name is Catfish, and with me, as always, is someone who regularly commits lactation fraud. It's Bubba.
Catfish, I always podcast with you, my fetid boomer. And we are going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 2, Goodbye, Miss Selvig. Oh my goodness, big episode. Outie Mark contemplates the meaning of a message. Lumon grapples with the fallout of the Overtime Contingency. Whew, Catfish, we finally get to see the fallout from the Season 1 incredible cliffhanger. What is your rating out of 10 for Episode 2?
Bubba, I am going to give this 9.1 out of 10.
Yeah.
Double P's.
Wait, double P?
Yes. That's when you are sorry or want to apologize to someone or kind of butter them up, you bring them pineapple presents. A presence of a pineapple. Bubba, I love that we got the episodes 1 and 2 in this order. First the Innies and then the Outies. It was a little slowed up at the end, seeing all the Innies come back again, but I just loved it. You know, Selvig gets the sack in this, and by sack I mean she gets the SAC, Severance Advisory Council.
Oh,
now,
wow. A promotion.
A promotion. Yes, a promotion. The doggy panel. Now, as far as mysteries go, I'm still not sure that Helena is really Helly downstairs. I browsed a little bit of the feedback we've gotten, Bubba. We have gotten some excellent feedback. People have put on their caps, and in some cases they put on their tinfoil hats, and I'm just loving it. Now, we did get a mystery solved. We know why they brought back Mark and eventually the others to make him feel safe. He is key to Cold Harbor. Mystery solved.
Okay, that's the end of the podcast. Oh, wait.
New mystery. What the heck is Cold Harbor? Oh, my God, Bubba. I am just loving this show, the little dribs and drabs. I was surprised to see Selvig again. Bubba, I would love to get into a poker game with Selvig. Poker face, bad. What about you, Bubba? What is your rating for Season 2, Episode 2 of Severance?
Well, Catfish, obviously you may not have seen all of Season 1 because you should have rated this episode 9 thruple P's out of 10.
Oh, right, thruple P's. Why a thruple?
Well, that is, of course, a pineapple power play. And it's especially good when it's magnificent, marvelous Milchick manipulating morons. That is what this episode was.
Wait, so this is a triple P quintuple M, really?
You catch on slowly. I'm going 9 out of 10. Everybody heard me last week. I went 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Just for me personally, I find the Outies slightly less interesting, even though this is, quote unquote, the real people. Or is it? Isn't that a great question to ask listeners? I find them slightly less interesting than the Innies, but an incredible episode. Let's give it up. Let's give it up for the incredible ice-cold lines in this episode. Selvig's classic, "You don't value me, you fear me," hashtag ice cold.
Wow.
And then I called him magnificent, marvelous Milchick. We are Milchick men. Why? Because finally an employee who goes above and beyond what he's asked to do. When he can pull out of his Milchick mind, the solace you have given him down there will make its way to you. Oh my God.
Whoa, a real bum rush.
Pull that out of your Milchick mind, you are officially a man. And I'm not a man. I'm a little boy compared to Milchick because he's got it right.
You know, Bubba, this is
incredible. This is the best show on TV without hands down.
We were right not to start this podcast until Season 2, because if we started at the beginning, we would have not called it Milchick Men, and we would have been wrong.
Exactly.
We would have been wrong to do so.
Exactly right. listeners to this podcast, and people discover this all the time. Throughout this podcast, you're going to hear us talking to you. You're the third person. You're our third friend as we discuss the show. We ask we ask this, hey, what do you think all the time? We love it when you are an active part of this podcast. A user with the handle Spider-Man Inky heard me ask in the podcast on episode 1 of season 2 of Severance. I was like, boy, I wonder if I love this so much because it's been a 3-year wait. And I wonder if I would love the episode if I binged it and then I suddenly got to this episode where it feels like everything awesome from the season finale is being reset back to status quo. Spider-Man Inky wrote to me and wrote to us and said, for the record, my wife and I binged season 1 about 2 months ago, and we had no problem watching the season 2 premiere. It didn't make us crazy that everything was reset, mostly because the Innies are the ones we relate to. And for us to relate to them, they have to be back on the Severance floor. Oh my God. The last thing we want season 2 to turn into is the Outie show. That would be what Spider-Man Inky says is starting over.
Well, I wonder what Spider-Man Inky thinks about tonight. Bubba, I was listening to the podcast over again, and when you were talking about how this was a hot tub show for you, and we got some feedback this week. We'll read it again, but someone said listening to the show was like listening to the podcast was like being on drugs. And that's a time when I felt like I was on drugs, when you compared watching the show to being in a hot tub. It was ethereal. But something I said to you after we recorded last week's podcast was how much I enjoy this week to week to think about what's going on, to have it build up and not binge it. I'm very excited for that. And I'm very excited because we have so much feedback to read this week. And, we always do. Who cares what we think? We want to know what you think. And we are going to be feeding a lot of that feedback today, which I love. So I just want to say, we would love you to join us. If you're watching us on YouTube, mash that subscribe button, leave us comments. We have also got a couple of podcasts coming up. Double M, Matt Murdock's Bustin' Blockbusters, doing the Wheel of Time season 3 in March. We're going to go back to our Parsec Passion podcast for Andor season 2 in April. And we are so close to having 10,000 subscribers. Just come on, get us to 10K.
The smart listener who said listening to us made it feel like they were on drugs. That was Solitaris Advena. And then Lemmy Orleans wrote, your podcast is so damn goofy. I kind of love it. Well, we got to get full love, Lemmy. Lemmy, your innie loves us.
Yeah, on YouTube, they need like a half thumb up.
Lemmy, we want to get you your Outie to have full love. It'll come to you, just like Milchick said. Oh, my goodness. Now, we didn't do a podcast, and maybe we are not as thick in the weeds as we need to be, because people online have discovered, they took a look at that awesome family visitation, Outie family visitation suite that's going to be set up, that Milchick implies to Dylan's going to be set up there at Lumon. And people are like, oh, wow, do you see what it is? That's the former security office.
Oh, boy. They have moved that to a separate floor.
Right. They're like, well, the security office needs more people and bigger space. So we'll turn this little space into the Outie family visitation suite.
I wonder if Dylan's going to recognize it. He's like, wait a second. Why do I feel like every time I come here that my belt got broken?
Hey, Catfish, before we dive into this 9.1 out of 10, wonderful episode, let's have some of our usual silliness. And we always ask, we love to ask ourselves, what would you like to have severed from your brain? And before we tell you our thoughts based on episode 2, we've got great feedback from you listeners on what you want to have severed from your brain. Heck yeah. Catfish, what is our good buddy Heath? What does he want severed? This is a good one.
He said, I'm going to see if Southern California offers severance for Dallas Cowboy fans. And by chance, if something good happens, my innie can record it for me. Well,
how many
expecting a lot of blank tapes.
How many years is poor Heath going to lose, for rooting for Cowboys? I should point out That's our good friend at Heath Actor on Twitter. He and our friends at Daily DVR Podcast, are doing their own coverage of Severance. Be sure to check them out. And then Joel, or Jewel sometimes on YouTube, said, hey, I'm like Bubba. I don't need Severance to forget my workplace. He says, as soon as it hits 5 o'clock, he refuses to think about work. He doesn't need Severance. He's like, once he's off, he doesn't think about it at all. Wow. I'm proud of you.
What about what about you? What about that was last week, but what about this week? What do you need to have severed from your brain?
Well, maybe we'll get to it later, but ice cold Helly, or Helena, excuse me. Helena, I need severed from my brain because this ice cold woman is not the Helly that we fell in love with in season 1. I almost want to play FMK between Helena, Helly, and maybe Kabelvig, because it is painful to see this person we fell in love with have this side to her, this other person inside of her, which is so cold and so dedicated to the family. And we're going to talk way more about Helena in this episode, but I maybe severed her. What about you, Catfish? Based on episode 2, what would you like to have severed from your brainage?
Well, I just want to have certain stuff severed from my brain. First of all, that I nagged you to do this podcast. If I could sever that. No, I'm just kidding. Really, I'd like to be severed from all the stuff that needs to be done around my house, Bubba. And sadly, I work at home, so I'm never away from, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. I want to be severed. I want to be severed until I've sold this dump and gotten into a rental house.
Whoa.
All right, Bubba. So we've got our double S.
Double S?
Severance Sillies. There's so many great laugh lines, dry laugh lines on this. And as always, I pitch some, and then out of the blue, Bubba comes out with the best one that I haven't even listed. So here are your choices tonight, Bubba. First, Ricken and Mark's sister are trying to kind of convince him that she's alive, was talking about their baby. Mark's sister says, I think Ricken's right. And Ricken says, I agree.
Hell yeah. You were earlier saying Ricken is evil. He's bringing solid gold. Come on. We're going to have to, that's our debates are at the end of the podcast. So listeners, get ready for some hardcore debates. That's a great one, Catfish. There can't be anything better than that.
Well, you're forgetting perhaps the whole door store interview with Dylan, there was a lot of solid gold in this. But my favorite part is when the guy interviewing him says, if you could be any kind of door, what would it be? And Dylan says, a pocket door? And the guy says, interesting. Tell me more.
Oh, man. I'll go ahead and say it. I had a job interview where they asked me what type of animal, I am. And that's not something you think about. So I said, I am a mutt. And they giggled for a whole 30 seconds. So I thought, well, okay, I suppose that's good. If you were, and I also thought about this. I thought, well, if I was asked that, what would I say? I'd say, well, probably a revolving door because I can, I can help people, multiple people in both directions. I don't know. What about you? What kind of door would you be?
I love those, what do they call them? Farm doors? What do they call them where the top, the top and the bottom open separately so you can open the top one and cool your pie on it before one of the beavers steals your cooling pie. I like the whatever that's called.
Yeah, I need one of those for out back because my horse, always wants to come up and talk, and I'm like, well, you got to stay in, so I got to open the top so he can talk to me. All right, Catfish. Those are two good options.
My last one is this wasn't super great, but Mark yelling at Mrs. Kolbelvig, I ate your fucking cookies.
Language. No wonder she was let go. Oh my goodness gracious. She had a pretty good slam on him talking about, man, was a pineapple involved? You're so easy to sway. Hell to the yeah. Oh, so good. God. This is a tough one, but I think we have to, without question, I think we have to give a shout out to Mark's sister, Devin. I am a Milchick man, But there is a part of me that says Devin is the only smart one on this show. The only smart one who doesn't work for Lumon on this show. Devin's great. So
accepting her choice in partners.
The heart wants what the heart wants, or the loins, who knows? You're right. Devin made one terrible mistake in her life, but otherwise, I think she's great. So I'm gonna give it up to her and Ricken. I've attacked the Outies as being less interesting. Ricken, I think, is a good little spice, and I think Devin, if there's, we keep talking about who's evil, who's a villain on this show. Devin may be the only hero on this show. Maybe. We'll see. How about you? You got better choice for a Severance silliness?
Those are the ones I came up with, so I don't have any. My choice is going to be, just because I think Ricken is such a tool. I think Ricken's right, and Ricken says, "I agree. I am right."
Man, finally, you've come around, and you're going to read that damn book because he couldn't read it himself. The book reading was ruined. Terrible.
Oh,
Mark.
Boy, he'll have to start again from the beginning. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Hey, all right, Catfish, you ready to dive in? So much happening.
Let's do
hit it. So, Outie Mark, just as we suspected, right after he's yelled she's alive, the overtime protocol is turned off. He's back. And come on, Devin is smart. Devin knows what the she's alive was about. Are they trying to placate themselves almost? Why would they go through with this charade and pretend that he's talking about little Eleanor? Come on.
Well, I think, Ricken starts it, even though Mark's sister, Devin, she's not believing it at first. And I think she falls into line just because it was distressing him so much. And, when we think about that, we're separate from what happened that whole night. But when you think about what went down, it was really crazy. So they have had a crazy night. There was supposed to be a reading. For a while, they thought their daughter was kidnapped. It's pretty scary. So I think she's just like, all right, we'll just deal with this later, as proven by she really forces it later on.
She really does. To me, it's a bit heartbreaking. It really, really is heartbreaking. This brother and sister, which a death is going to, be so painful for any relationship. But the fact that, and we'll talk about it in a bit, but the fact that they at times have to walk on eggshells around each other, and then at times Mark didn't walk on eggshells.
Whoa.
Brutal. That situation is not quite as chilly as maybe this Egan, the upstairs suites in the Egan offices there. Helena is checking her neck in her reflection, and in walks her dad. I can never remember how you pronounce her dad's first name. Jame. Is it Jamie? Jam?
I think it's Jamie.
Okay. And oh my God, he is not happy. And he gets very close. To me, it was like he was looking in her eyes to make sure she was her. You know what I mean? He's disappointed. He calls her a fetid moppet and pieces out. Hashtag ice cold.
I don't understand. He of all people should know that somebody messed up and it wasn't her. That's not her. You're blaming her for something that somebody else did.
Wait a minute. No, it is her. Well, it's not the her you're talking to at that moment.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Her.
Yes,
that person's not there. I need to be mad with somebody mad with somebody here.
This is what I was taught. Yes, but it makes no sense. I understand. He's a what I like to call double A.
Double A.
Yeah, authoritarian asshole. But we talked about how these are separate souls. He's just lashing out. He's lashing out at the wrong person. He should go down to the severed floor.
Right, bring her down there and be angry with her there.
Yeah, exactly.
But wait a minute, she may not really realize he's her father down there. Oh, boy, this is so tough.
Now, this is amazing. So she does a little speech.
She takes charge very quickly. We don't know how quickly, we can kind of assume how quickly this is after her terrible speech. Oh, yeah. Because Dylan is still leaving the building with the ice pack on his head. But she's taking charge. I love this. She's, listen, somebody from the floor has to, get with these Outies. Drummond there, Mr. Drummond, he's like, where's Willis? Mr. Drummond. But Mr. Drummond's like, hey, we need to talk to them promptly.
Now, Bubba, this
Yeah.
actor who's
I
playing
was
Drummond,
waiting for you to say this. Yeah.
Olafur Dari Olafsson.
Yeah.
I love this guy. I've seen him in a bunch of shows. I actually auditioned for the same part as he did on Nosferatu, and I only know this because he got the part and I did not. Yeah.
Okay, I hate Mr. Drummond. And just for that, I'm also going to hate Willis and Arnold.
So he's an interesting dude. We don't know much about him. I assume we'll find out more.
Good.
Helena first does the speech. She says that they have gotten every video of what's going on, but obviously word is going to leak out a little bit. So she does kind of a speech. There's a little bit of a funny here that didn't make the funny cut where she said, I was drinking and taking a non-Lumon medication. And that's what caused me. She's got to make sure to say that you can safely drink with Lumon medications and it won't cause any craziness. And then she says to Milchick, to talk to the Outies and find out every word they said and who they said it to. And Milchick says, and should I fire them? And she says, let Keir guide your hand. And if we know anything about Keir and father figures
and traitors,
that firing is the least that should be done to these people.
Now, Catfish, I want to point out something I found very odd. In the subtitles, when she is talking to Milchick, and this is upstairs, in the top floors there of Lumon Industries headquarters, the subtitles say Helly says something. Like, so when it says, let Keir be your guide your hand, the subtitles reads Helly as saying that, not Helena. Should we take anything from that, or is this just the show's trying to... Why do you think the subtitles would say that as opposed to Helen?
Well, it might be a mistake. We know from last season that integration just leads to madness. So I don't think that if she was Helly, she would be able to pull all this off. It would only be if she was integrated. So it feels like a mistake.
Well, is what she does with Miss Selvig a mistake? Because this is definitely, we can go through this delicious, awesome scene, but the end result is Selvig's getting sunset. She is being put to pasture. All the things you want to say. This is a firing, for lack of a better word. We're going to get you out of it puts you in an area where you can't cause a mess.
She is not apologetic. Basically, she comes back, because she had been warning for a while and they were ignoring her warnings. And so basically she's saying, like, you need me there because I am the person who can handle some stuff. But I don't understand, Bubba, why she says you fear me.
Selvig wants a lot of things. She says flat out, an apology is warranted. I welcome your contrition. But the you fear me is that we've already just had Helena/Helly say a bunch of damaging things about the company. The last thing they want is somebody who really knows everything that's going down out there talking. She can come out and say, oh, I had a bit too much to drink and I was acting silly. But if suddenly, immediately after that, another person, an employee there came out and said, yeah, it's terrible. This is what they're doing to the Innies. I think they do fear her in some ways.
Gosh, Bubba, I don't know. I was just so into it that I completely missed that now a very obvious issue that she could be a big problem for them. Why are they letting her hang around? They should have Milchick visit her.
Let's go deeper into Miss Selvig, the named character in the title of this episode. She has been with the kind of Lumon brainwashing since she was a little girl. And she really believes in the cause. Let's be completely honest. She is
absolutely
100% down with Lumon. And so this is very difficult to talk about, but it's almost like people breaking away from Scientology, it feels like, or people... Maybe that's not even perfect. The trick is that I've dedicated my life to you. Now you need to respect that and kind of pay it back. And she wasn't being respected. She knows it. But can you, if you still believe in something, really rat him out to the press? See, she's in a weird position.
No, I don't think so. I know there are a lot of, having listened to a lot of stuff, there are people who have left cults. There are people who have left Scientology who still believe in the core values that they learned in those places. They
Okay.
were just upset by, the flawed leaders. And so they don't see the teachings as bad. They see the people who are in charge of these things as bad, especially if you've been brought up from a young age. So yes, there are still Scientologists who believe in Scientology beliefs, but not in the Scientology, the corporation/church.
We are going a far field, but could one of those people maybe hate the, L. Ron Hubbard's family? Like, this is what it feels like. It's like, I can still believe in the cause, but L. Ron Hubbard Jr. or whatever, I know nothing about Scientology, so I'm getting in trouble here, but what if that was the person you felt was betraying you? I mean, this is some oddities.
Well, yes, it could be, because you could, if you see them, what you believe, violating the core principles, it doesn't matter whether they're family or not.
Okay. Something that is kind of bigger than somebody's religious faith is a nice fit. And Milchick has a sweet leather jacket and a helmet and a motorcycle. Hell yeah, boy.
Oh man,
he is running.
He is so badass. So badass. And now, Bubba, we get a quick flash of the license plate. It's LFS 159, but more importantly, it has like a picture of Kier in the middle, and it has a motto on it, Remedium Hominibus. And the translation is care for man. And Bubba, when I look this up, someone had a screenshot, but not from this episode, from a few years ago. This is what happens when you don't do a deep dive on a show. It turns out Mark had the same license plate, but this is going to be, it's an interesting, I've got big questions I want to ask later about this license plate, but just note, we've got a company which has a bunch of products, seems to have some sort of deep core religious belief, has been around for years, and also seems to be a heavy-duty power in at least one state to sort of be the face of the license plate for that state.
Forget that. They can make their own doors.
They do make their own doors in-house.
Incredible. So, okay, this is an odd place to talk about it, but because Milchick's going to go, he's awesome, manipulating of everybody later. But at a certain point, we do have to talk, have this Helen, battle out. They had a little screen up, hopefully everybody saw it, where it said, hey, stay tuned after the episode for an inside look at the making of season 2. And the show creator...
You're really pitching that. You're really selling that.
Hey, if you stay till the end of the episode and after the international credits, you'll get an inside look at the making of Severance season 2. So the show creator had this line that really stuck out to me. He said, and maybe this has come across in the show, but to hear it so bluntly kind of put me back. Show creator said, Helena sees Innies as subhuman. That is brutal, Catfish. Brutal.
Wow. And I don't get that. And also, I mean, we're going to see later on, we're going to have to, I'm going to ask you to tell me what you think Helena is thinking as she's watching the Mark S. and Helly R show.
The adult reality show.
The supercut. Okay, so we've got some listener feedback on this about Helly. Wayne Rogers says, try and understand why the next in line to be CEO of Lumon would opt to get severed. Perhaps Helena has questions about the Kool-Aid her family has been selling. Helly is Helly this season, but Helena is just under the surface trying to find the truth of the Kool-Aid induced comas. Now, I wish I could believe that, Bubba. This all has to do with when you see the push they put on Mark. Mark S is key to Cold Harbor. So much so that they brought back all the other troublemakers. And if we take them at their word, Helena's got to go back to being severed for 8 hours a day. So I assume that they put her in there to help this situation, that they thought that her subhuman could help Mark with Cold Harbor.
Now, Zombie Italian, another great loyal listener who gives feedback, he suspects Helly is the Outie self. He says the fact that she was adamant about her, about being an Outie and the Innies are different. And at the end of the episode, this is something everybody points out. At the end of the episodes, episode 1 of season 2, they're all back at their desks and they're going to start it back up. She fumbled with the computer switch.
Oh,
like she didn't even remember how to turn this computer on. Like maybe she hadn't done it because it was Helena. She also, everybody points out that, hey, she's constantly in the first episode saying, hey, there are no microphones here. Hey, they got rid of the camera, as if she wants people to reveal things. I mean, this is
well,
crazy,
is she trying to reveal things, or is she just trying to help with Cold Harbor? So that's what's going on here. But it also says Zombie Italian said the Innies will be reintegrated at the end, making one person. Now, I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but that's because I have no idea what they're actually trying to do.
How our good friend Camille, a good friend on Threads app, said Helly lied. So she thinks Helly is the one in the Innie world in season 2, episode 1, and it seems right. And she said Helly lied because she's worried what all her friends will think about, and they'll think she's a spy if she tells them the truth. Now, of course, another great friend, Gen X Cat Mom, who's at all mod cons on Blue Sky, says, no, I think Helena is in the office, Catfish.
All right, and the no one said, I also think it's Helena, not Helly, that came back. I feel Miss Wong is Miss Casey cloned, or Mark's daughter.
Whoa.
Oh, I wonder if the Severance team intentionally left us in the dark on Miss Wong's identity. Holy cow, Bubba. Wow. Now that is a great Miss Casey cloned or Mark's daughter. I'm loving this.
Our final bit of feedback specifically on Helly is Gayleen, who wrote, I totally believe Helly is Helena. There would have been one reason to send Helly back, and that's to let her be punished. Ooh, Catfish, don't you like that? Helly can't suffer if she isn't activated. In fact, I think Helena does plan to reactivate her at some point once she has found out whatever she needs to find out, and once she has ruined Helly's life entirely so she can send Helly back into the ruins. Dang.
All right.
I love
this. I love this. I've got 2 pushbacks on it. Not that I disagree, but it makes me think 2 things. One, her dad is sending Helena back to punish her.
Yep.
Go down to the severed floor by not being severed. But also, she would not be able to set Helly back down until things are done, because otherwise Helly would be like, what do you mean? I haven't been down here for what do you mean you talked to me about this? You talked to me about that. Her first thing back would be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm seeing you guys again. And they'd be like, what do you mean? We've been seeing you for the last 2 months. So. Okay.
All right. Big debate. Listeners, did this episode change you one way or another? Tell us.
I love it. I love all the theories. Keep them, give it right into my veins, Bubba.
Hey, let's go with the true hero of the show. The one nobody doubts, and that's Milchick taking care, standing on business, people. He goes to Irv's place first. And let me say, Irving, you do a terrible job of lying. Hey, what are you doing? I've just been here. What?
Come on.
Terrible.
Me, Selvig, and Irv in a poker game, Bubba. We will clean up.
Oh, my God. And then Milchick, so cool, calm, and collected. Your Innie is a real friend of mine. I feel confident he'd approve of me saying so. But then he fires him. Ooh.
Yeah.
Bam, 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 bam.
Irv tries to bribe him with some money he's got upstairs. I'm surprised Irv has any money left. The money he spends on canvases and black paint must be running him out of house and home. But we see Irv petting his dog and looking at the map to Bert Goodman's. Holy cow. And then Milchick goes to Dylan's house. Bubba, this is the one. I mean, I know we see different personalities. To me, Irv seems the closest as far as his innie personality and his outie personality. Mark is so depressed on the outside. Helly is like corporate head cutter on the outside, soft on the inside. And Dylan on the outside is not as confident and braggadocious as he is on the inside. I love Innie Dylan. Outie Dylan, buck up, bro.
Don't you love that Milchick killed him with the truth? There was a physical altercation with another employee. That's exactly right. Milchick tells the truth. The best leader we could have. But he fires Dylan. And this is so wonderful. You know, everybody loves crazy theories. But you know what I really think the real theory is everything about this show is how do we twist what happens in real life. And what happens in real life is everybody is so many people are miserable with their job. And the only thing that can make them more miserable is if suddenly you fired them and they didn't have that job anymore. And so Outie Dylan, you know, he's saying what anybody would. Wait a minute. How am I going to tell my wife later on? There's just a quick shot of him sitting on the couch late at night. He can't go back to bed because he's got to tell his wife, and he's got at least 2 kids, right? I'm out of a job. All our benefits are gone. Dang.
Now, Bubba, before we get to the last member who's going to get a different reception.
Oh, he sure is.
Than Irv and Dylan. That's when we had the part we talked about earlier. We've got Ricken. Their discussion about whether she's alive was about the baby Eleanor. And one thing you got to stand up, you got to say for evil Ricken, he always keeps the focus on him. What does he remember from this whole experience? That Outie Mark was inspired by his book.
That is true, though. Once again, true. Why are you? Is there anything Ricken could do to make you stop being frustrated with his character, Catfish? Or do you? I mean, come on, you admit these things are silly and ridiculous and fun, and this show's supposed to be with laughs.
I do. It's just, but the laughs on everything else is like at the right pitch, and I just feel like Ricken and you know the dialogue they have of his and the way he acts is just like 20% too big. I feel like the Ricken is like kind of almost in a not 3-camera sitcom, but single camera sitcom, and the rest of them are in a dry comedy.
Ricken rules in if you.
He's evil.
Oh my gosh. You know what? We'll talk about that later, and then I'll edit that out. So, hey, let's get to Milchick talking to Mark. So gentle. May I sit with you? Oh, perfect. He tells him about the overtime contingency. Innie Mark was out of Outie for 39 minutes. Oh, so gold. Man, he's like, we have no punishments at Lumon. We're very concerned. Honesty is so good. I love it. Wonderful.
Yeah, and part of his honesty is that we have no punishments at Lumon. We're very concerned.
Yeah, that's just what I said. Right. You know, part of his honesty is that he's going to dress to impress with that awesome leather jacket. Hell yeah.
Yeah, but it's the helmet. It's the helmet that our boy Ricken loves.
Yes, exactly. Do you want to give a shout out once again? I've already said Devin, I think, is the only smart one on this show besides Milchick. Her real quick going to lactation fraud, which is, you know, now I'm pretty sure, you know, our new president has put an executive order saying that it's fine to do it, but
I mean, she is the one giving the most side-eye to our boy Milchick.
Yes. Oh, well, maybe I should dislike her because of that. How dare she?
Now, you know what? Milchick is so good that he needs to have someone who can get the best out of him and challenge him. So far, no one's been able to do it. So Devin is the anti-hero that we need.
She needs to divorce Ricken, who you hate, and marry a real Milchick man. I love it. Love it.
Man.
Now, Catfish, last week, when we were talking about the first episode of season 2, you were like, this doesn't feel like 5 months. We quickly learned, sure as hell, this is not 5 months. Milchick leaves on a classic, I hope to see you Monday.
Yeah.
Your innie what he did was completely unauthorized, but it was also very brave. I'd hate to reward his courage with non-existence. Bam! Heck yes. What would be the worst? Going every day to an office without Milchick or non-existence?
I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, right? Without Milchick, there can be no true existence.
Now, Helena, you mentioned this scene a little earlier. She is watching that security footage of her other self, Helly R and Mark S smooching. She is fascinated by this showmance, but is she fascinated in a bad way? Is she thinking, this subhuman of me is kissing that subhuman? What do you take?
Yeah, see, I'm glad I didn't watch the end. I don't. I can't tell whether she's like, you look at it in a romantic way. Oh my God, I'm close to this. There's a part of me that is in a relationship with someone rather than I'm just career taking over the world, mind control, the whole thing, or whether it's something else. But it still doesn't feel to me like she's thinking that Helly is subhuman. I'm not getting that from this show at all.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and spoil it. If you didn't watch the after show, I apologize. This is artistic intent. You don't care about it. But what the other thing the show creator said was that Helena is seeing somebody who hasn't always had to toe the family line. She's saying, oh, this would be me if I didn't have to toe the family line and always be on. And so he's implying that maybe it was exciting her. To me, I thought it read when I watched it like she was shook, like, oh my God, I'm kissing this stranger. I'm kissing this person I don't know. But that makes me wonder if maybe Helena is kind of jealous of the freedom that Helly R had, that she maybe didn't as the scion of a big family where she has to do what's told of her. So, How about, so once again, FMK, Helena, Helly, or, Miss, I can never say it, Kobolvig.
All right, well,
FMK, let's hear
it. I would marry Helena because she's between doing both of her jobs. Between doing both of her jobs, I just sit around at home and get to play video games and just live the life. Okay, and obviously I'm gonna F Helly, and then I'm gonna kill Kobolvig. How could there's no other answer to this question than the way I exactly answered it, Bubba. So go ahead and tell me the wrong way to answer this question.
Well, why? You just did it. Like, you just did the wrong way. Like, just repeat yourself.
Well, then back. Tell me the incorrect way that you would do this.
Well, obviously, Helena is ice cold and mean and cruel and doesn't like showing her emotions. So,
and she's got two jobs.
Right. So that's an F. Then I need somebody who can help me, take care of my house and raise my kids. So Kobolvig is Mary.
Oh, but her cookies are so shitty, Bubba.
They're the best cookies. They're give cookies a chance.
Oh my God! All right,
that
so
means
enough
I
of
have
that
to
silly.
Helly. No, I think we've been too sexist, and we need to do an FMK on all the men, just to for all things. So you've got Mark S, you've got Dylan G, and you've got Irv B. Let's hear an FMK on them.
Oh sexist man, I thought you were going to have Milchick in here. That was going to make it tough because I would
be
want
too easy.
Both right. F and M.
Right, and then he could K me. Right. All right, so let's hear it. Who you got for these innies? Who you got?
All right, I'm gonna kill Mark S. As an Outie, he is such a bummer. He probably thanked me for it.
Okay, sure.
And then I think, I would marry Dylan because he's very concerned about being a provider, and of course, I'm sexy Irv, man. He's a painter. He's an artist. I'm definitely gonna F him.
Okay, you got that exactly.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so Mark has left his sister.
Yeah.
And he's driven home. And how would you, there's no way to say how you would react. He sees that her car, Miss Selvig's car, is in the driveway. He goes and knocks on her door. That I thought was slightly crazy. I thought, dude, don't do it. And then, you know what? We can talk about the acting. We can talk about so much. The cinematography in this episode, where it had that great pan watching Helena walk, through all the rooms to the boardroom when she had her meeting with Miss Selvig. And then the cinematography when she has just watched her make, her showmance with Mark S. And then she's in the upper floor. And then we see Milchick's motorcycle driving into the parking lot. That is some great cinematography. I'll talk about some cinematography and grip work I don't like later in the episode, but I think that's great.
Thank God. That's what people come to this podcast for. Discussion about grip work.
Well, come on. Why did Mark, all right, back to seriousness. Why did Mark knock on her door? Is he crazy?
He wants answers.
Yeah, but, she, in his Outie Mark has to think this lady's a little gone. You know what I mean?
Right. But Innie Mark would not dare because she
that's true. Yeah.
She is super scary and in a position of authority. He's just really confused here. I mean, think about it. Like, yeah, she's Lulu, but also it's still unexplained why she did all that.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Any thoughts, or you want to talk us through Dylan's job interview? Great scene.
It is such a hilarious scene. Man. It's a hilarious scene. They're talking about, how old were you when you love doors? You like kickball. And then, Bubba, there is a switch that's flipped. Ding. He tells them about being severed.
Oh.
And Bubba, this is so fascinating because I love the way the show does this. There's a lot of controversy about the severance, but we don't really know what the overall feeling is. We feel like this company is powerful and it's everywhere and it does everything, but there's something about this severance that seems like some people are really cool with, but somehow there's a stigma attached to this severance.
Yeah.
Which is a little confusing. I mean, I do understand you're kind of giving up, sort of possession of your body, but to make it so
you want to circumcise your brain doesn't mean I have to hire you. Dang.
Wow.
Well,
wow.
Give it up for Gretchen, Dylan's wife, who's, very encouraging of him. Oh, love it. And they've got a baby. They're getting baby wipes. He's got to find a job, Catfish.
Holy cow. And then we have Mark and Devin having lunch at Pip's Diner. Bubba, any info about Pip's?
Well, Pip, and once again, I just watched the first season as a fun vibe show almost. So listeners keep teaching me how to podcast on the show. But Pip, sure enough, is one of the Egans, maybe a nickname or something, but it's named after him. So this is probably an Egan eating establishment. Whoa,
that's a triple E, Bubba. You're so good. All right, so Mark has decided to quit.
Right.
And Devin now is on this train.
Yes.
We have got to figure out how to get a message here. Innie, we've got to figure out how to do this. It is a little bit surprising that she is so confident and all in on this. Now, I understand why
she
Mark
just doesn't want to. I mean, you don't want this hanging over you. Once again, I agree with Devin. I don't think it was the perfect tact, but you don't want to spend the next 40 years of your life wondering, what was he talking about then?
What's kind of interesting is that Mark is very angry about this. He's still angry about his wife being lost, and he is so in it. It's almost like he's saying, don't get me riled up about this, even though he is still all riled up about this. So in a way, it doesn't make sense, right? Because he's still going to be focused on this, whether he thinks she's alive or not. He is just driven crazy. And we hear Mr. Drummond. If we see a quick picture, the word frantic is tattooed on his left hand. Bubba, I can't keep that's one too many mysteries for me to keep my mind on. It's just an interesting detail. And then, Bubba, we see something really strange.
Yes.
We see Irv at a phone booth. he calls someone and he says, I want you to know my innie got the message. And then we see somebody drive up and I'm like, oh my God, it's Milchick. It's somebody from Lumon.
That's what I thought.
It's Bert. WTF, Bubba?
Bert is watching Irv. Do you have any idea who Irv was calling? Was he calling Bert? Who was he calling?
I have no idea who he's calling. I mean, I can understand Bert, like this guy shows up and maybe he knows something about my innie's life. So maybe there's that. I don't know how he knows how to find Irv, but yeah, that is just throw another mystery onto the pile, Bubba.
Well, Catfish, I want to pause and talk about something earlier. You said that this episode showed why everybody returned. I have to be honest. I'm not exactly sure it convinced me why Irv returned to the office. Why did Irving return? Like, obviously, Dylan needs a job. We get it. Obviously, Helena needs to support her family company and its work. I get that. What was Irving? You know, they didn't stress that Irving really needed a job. It stressed that he's still painting. He still sees that door, that elevator. I believe it's the elevator down to the testing floor, right? And so he's still obsessed with it. But what would you say is the real reason Irving returned to Lumon?
I mean, there could be a couple reasons. One, he seems like a very lonely person. So maybe he feels like he's got sort of connection to some other world. But also, I think, you know, as an artist, he feels like he keeps painting the same thing over and over again. And I think that he thinks it's from his other life. And so for him to get the answer, he needs to keep living that other life.
All right. Listeners, what do you think? Write us and tell us. So Mark is changing a light bulb in his house, and this is where I get to the grip work. If you watch this scene, there are multiple lights on in this scene between Outie Mark and Mr. Milchick. And yet it's so dark. Like in the dark scene, you can see, hey, that light's on. There's a light right on here. And yet it is so dark. Of course, that's setting this tense mood. But grips do better. Come on.
I mean, Milchick shows up with the pineapple. I mean, and he is putting the hard sell on him.
Hard sell.
20% bump.
Oh,
full investigation of his Innie's claim. I mean, and then the hammer.
Oh,
the hammer. He says, hey, are you, by the way, you know, dangle, dangle, dangle. And then he's like, now, do you remember what you put about your wife on, you know, what you said about your wife on your entry form? Since she died, every day has felt like a year.
Wow.
And Milchick says you're choking on her ghost. He says, the Mark I've come to know at Lumon is happy. He cares for people and he's funny. He's found love. Milchick even brings that. Man. I didn't know when Helly was watching that scenery. I was like, has no one else seen this? But it's obvious everyone has seen it. Helly's just rewatching out of some either prurient or disgusting interest. But oh my God. And then he says that line that you said, the solace you have given him down there will make its way to you. That is the triple M.
Triple M?
The mastery of Mr. Milchick.
Hold on. You know what I want? This guy is so gold. He is so perfect. I just realized what I want.
Tell me.
When I go to Arby's and get a Jamocha shake, I want him working at the drive-thru and telling me that mocha shake you have given him down there will make its way to you. This guy is good. He's got to work drive-thrus.
Bubba, this calls for almost instant severing. Number one, going to Arby's, and then number two, deciding that you're going to get a coffee shake at Arby's.
It's so good. Okay, all right. How about this? I'll go regional. When I'm in Atlanta and I go to varsity and I get a FO, that's frosted orange for people who don't speak varsity.
Yeah.
I want Milchick there telling me that frosted orange you have given him down there will make its way to you.
No, I'm holding you going to the Arby's drive-thru.
That's fine.
And getting a dessert shake.
Wait, hold on. Come on. Listen, when I go to the DQ and get a blizzard,
Yeah, that's fine. That's what they make there.
I want Mr. Milchick putting the Heath candy bars in it and telling me why it's a good order. I mean, come on, name a food place that Mr. Milchick wouldn't make better if he was taking your order. Name it, Catfish. Name it. Let's hear it.
It's true. Sorry, I just don't think you're getting how wonderful your first example.
Listen to me. I'm gonna go to Red Lobster. I'm gonna tell Mr. Milchick I want every effing cheddar biscuit in this place. All right, hold on. Listen to me. I'm gonna go to Baskin Robbins. And I promise you, Mr. Milchick is
give me a clown coat.
I'm gonna go to Carvel. He's gonna give me Fudgy the Well.
A whale of a cake.
No, back to Baskin Robbins. I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna say, Mr. Milchick, 31 flavors isn't enough. And he's gonna whip out the 32nd flavor. All
right, now I know. I know what our listeners feel like, because I feel like I am on acid right now. All right, so here, let's get back to it. Mark is going to go back to work.
Now he's considering it, yeah.
Helena watches him return with Milchick. Oh my God. And we see, is this when we see Mark W yelling, hey, damn it, I broke a lease and I'm only on 3 days of work.
Well, we find out that Milchick threw this together. He pulled Dario, the floater from overseas. He pulls the two. They had been previously laid off from Group 5X, Catfish. Whoa.
This is another delicious thing. There's lots of layers here. When they mentioned 5X, everybody else in the room is like, "Oh God, you had to take them from 5X." Jeez. And now we know it's true what Mark W said. Since they had never closed a job, these guys were bottom of the barrel. And now I don't find them suspicious at all. They're just losers.
Hey, now. But this is last week. Everybody listened to that brilliant podcast. Maybe not that brilliant. But I said Mark was the villain. And maybe he's not a knowing villain. But all these people got roped into coming back to Lumon because they need Mark for this cold harbor. So Mark is the kind of fault. It is his fault that they're all being dragged back here.
And I will continue to say what I said last week. He saved these people's lives. What did Milchick say? I would hate for you to end up killing to Mark. I'd hate for you to end up killing Mark S. He saved their lives. Just like Milchick said. Master Milchick says, if you don't let the innies go back, you're killing them.
Non-existence. So you think that's fine. But my Arby's Jamocha shake, you want it to have non-existence. I'm thirsty for a coffee damn shake.
Sweet Jesus. Can you top it with, instead of whipped cream, can you put horsey sauce on top of it?
I mean, listen, I hear the word cold harbor. I'm going straight to Arby's.
All right. So this is what it is. So they need Mark long enough at work to complete Cold Harbor. We're seeing everything from the other side that we saw last week. We see the board listening to Mark's plea to see his team, and the board is going to give him what he wants. So what does Milchick do? He goes, makes calls for 2 more orders to the pineapple basket store.
Get it.
And Mark comes in. Dylan returns. And Irving returns. And then Helena or Helly returns.
So good. Finally, Mark, at the end of the episode, gets to confront Miss Selvig. She is packing up. She puts on her mid-Atlantic accent, and she's kind of upset with him, too. She's like, this is your fault that I'm, losing my job. He calls out. This is so good. He calls her out. Do you know something about Gemma? This is what we all want. This is the tease. This is I've got to see the next episode immediately. So how do you think she handled that?
Very poorly, Bubba.
Oh.
Very poorly. It was obvious from her face that she knows something. And now Mark previously had a bug in his ear from his sister. now I believe he is ready to carry this forward.
Dang.
And so maybe contact us any, something like that.
Okay.
All right, Bubba. So we have got to do our debates. We've got 2 debates. But well, Bubba, by the way, there was this is a deep cut for some of our loyal listeners. Irv's last name, Bailiff.
It's me.
Yes, Irv the Bailiff.
It's me, Bailiff Irving. What? Put your hand on the Bible. That's not my Bible. Right. So, in our first debate, Catfish, that was a deep cut for people who've been with us 11 years. Cut. We hope you appreciate that. So, let me hear it. You wrote and you said Ricken is the true evil. This feels hyperbolic. In other ways you can say that word. Let's hear it. Make your case.
Well, the case is this, is that Ricken is peddling even worse BS than Lumon is. And, you know, at least at Lumon, they care about other people. They're trying to complete this Cold Harbor, probably so they can dominate the world. But still, they've got a goal, and all Ricken cares about is his damn ego. He's going to ruin everything, Bubba. And Lumon is going to use his book to do it.
Catfish, you keep saying that all he cares about is himself. Isn't that, now I disagree wholeheartedly with it, but isn't it Ayn Rand's philosophy that you're supposed to be selfish and you're supposed to only think about yourself and think about your book? I mean, if you just published a book, that would be all you think about. I mean, this is, why is that evil that he looks out for number one?
Because he's too over the top.
Okay.
There you got it out of me, Bubba.
Finally.
You finally got it out of me.
Thank you.
You finally got out of me. All right, Bubba.
Yes.
I believe there's a little bit more meat on the bone with your strong statement. Let's hear it.
I find the Innies more interesting to watch than the Outies. I think the reality of why I think that is that the Innies have a more compelling life. They are up against more challenges. They are in a more desperate situation than the Outies. I mean, let's be honest, we haven't really spent any time with a good number of these Outies. Do you think we've spent even 15 minutes with Dylan's Outie? I do not think so. I think by trying to hide Helly's true Outie persona, we really, until this episode, haven't spent too much time with Helena. We've spent some time with Irv. We saw his Outie Irv painting those paintings, but the show has not dedicated time to much of the Outies outside of Mark. In Mark, as you said, Outie Mark, I should say, is someone going through grief and depressed, and his date was, his date was awkward as it would be. I think it's real, but it's maybe not fun to watch in season one. The most interesting thing is this season one is him investigating his old Innie partner. So even then, the most interesting thing I found in Outie Mark's storyline in season one is him investigating his Innie world. And so therefore, when you have 2 episodes, episode 1 of season 2, entirely Innie world, episode 2 of season 2, entirely Outie world, I think this is the best show on TV. So this is, we're talking about minute changes. But I think because of that, you have to state it clearly. The Innies are more interesting to watch. As a viewer, we're here to be entertained than the Outies.
Well, I will agree that, first of all, just the way their characters are, that Mark, Dylan, and Irv are more compelling characters as their Innies, not just due to the amount of time we spent with them, but just because of their character traits. I think the person who's more complex is Helena, maybe, but we haven't spent that much time with her. Okay. But what really makes it more compelling is we have the Innies working together, and the Outies are all separate. So we don't get to see them work together. So it's not as much fun when we don't have the gang.
How about this? Our namesake Milchick, is he more interesting Innie, or now we see him out in the real world? I think he's perfect in both, but do you have a preference of where you like to watch Milchick work?
Well, I mean, we can't use the term Innie and Outie with him. He's not severed, but
he works in, or he works on,
does,
on the
but
road.
but he is not. He is not one of the severed ones, just like Mrs. Kobelvig wasn't. I thought Milchick was great indoors with the
Yes.
parties, but
Yes.
really it's when you get him on the cycle and on the road and delivering pineapple baskets, just really putting the squeeze on people psychologically. That's really where he shines. That's where he shines.
Hell to the yeah. Listeners, let's hear it. Is Ricken just too over the top and evil? Are the Innies more interesting than the Outies? We obviously want to hear from you at Double PHQ on all social media platforms and down in the YouTube comments, Catfish. Woo!
All right, Bubba. So now we come to the double D's, double K's.
Double B's, double K's?
Yeah, the deeply dumb catfish questions.
Well,
that's right. Okay. So, Bubba, the first one is, so we talked about this a little bit earlier, but the Lumon's been around forever, a couple hundred years, right? Seems like 1860s, like that.
Well, he was born. He was, you know, Kier was born, I think, in the 1860s. But sure.
All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, what religion or business are they comparable to? I mean, they got 200 corporations around the world. They make everything, like you said. They make doors, but but there's like the Book of Lumon, which seems religious. As I said, the license plate, which means that at least one state, maybe it's like Utah with the Mormons, but I can't think of anything that is more comparable. This seems very sort of dangerous, big brothery. So what can you compare them to in our modern world as far as their reach?
PepsiCo.
PepsiCo. Bubba, how dare you say that in the land of Georgia? Coke is going to come and kill you. All right, so that's one question that I have.
PepsiCo not only makes the drinks, but they own KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut, right?
I mean, when I worked for Jack in the Box, Purina owed them, so that's when I stopped eating their super tacos.
All right, Bubba. Sponsorship, sure.
All right, here we go. But at Jack in the Box, my favorite is the Jamocha shake. All right, so here's a question. Judd doesn't recognize Helena, or he just ignores her? Because he is not severed, so he should know who she is. She's big time.
Wait, who's Judd? I'm lost.
Judd's the guy at the elevator.
Oh, sorry. Oh, the security guard Judd. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. He doesn't say anything, but he also doesn't. There's like no recognition, which feels like there should be recognition.
Yeah, no, that is a good one. I work currently for a company that is owned by a venture capitalist. So honestly, though, if the venture capitalist walked through the office, would I know the venture capitalist? I know the, I know the CEO, the general manager, all these positions, CFO, all these things. But would I recognize the venture capitalist? I may not. So maybe I am like Judd, the security guard. Okay.
All right. So you're blissfully ignorant. Okay, great. So number 3.
How dare you? Yeah.
What is Kobelvig's game? She still seems like she is going to be in the game. I still can't tell whether she's a danger to the company, she's a danger to Mark. If, like you said, she's going to like work outside the company to promote the company's games. I don't think I don't know what it is.
I think she knows an awful lot, but we also know that there's so many other offices. Could she could she go to a different office and talk to some of the people there and explain the problems? You know, like we keep hearing about.
I mean, you can't go from corporate down.
Could she go to a
smaller?
Well, could you go to a member of the board's house and
she doesn't even know the board. She just would speak to him on a speaker. All right, Bubba, I got one more deeply dumb catfish question, and that is, and I put it out to our listeners, does Cold Harbor have to do with Gemma?
Well, the answer to that is obviously yes. In fact, people say that if you look at the flash of Gemma's face over the computer screens last week as Mark was returning to work, Innie Mark S, that the word Cold Harbor appeared on that. So what does Cold Harbor make you think of? In some ways, it makes me think of like something being on ice, which is, maybe a bit too much, but Cold Harbor A harbor is where ships come in. So it's like, once again, maybe Data's coming into her, and she's cold because she's brain dead. I don't know. Okay. It definitely has to do with Gemma, but maybe once again, we should go to our listeners who are so much brighter than I am to get that answer. You got any ideas? Let's hear it.
Well, I mean, since it has to do with him and her, is it trying to see if they'll recognize each other? But then they've split them up. So I'm a little confused about what it is at this point.
Yes.
Bubba,
Listeners,
and if you are confused, where do you go to, Bubba? You go to our listeners who provide not just great feedback, but lots of crazy, and by crazy, I mean I love it. Give me more delicious theories. All right.
At the beginning of our feedback here, let's get to people who are just calling us out for our silliness. Skeptical Zach asked the most important question. What is this? An alternate reality where the podcast hosts actually dress up? Must be their innies. I don't trust Ricken. He's up to something. There you go. Skeptical
evil.
Zach is with you, Catfish.
I love it. And Francesca says, Milkshake Men. Interesting title. What? No, it's Milchick Men. How dare you, Francesca?
Blank name gives us the same bit of feedback where he says, I'm a milkshake man.
What? Stop it. And Brian Conway says, Mark killed his wife. Holy cow.
Whoa, now, okay, let's talk about this. I said Mark was the villain. Mark accidentally maybe kills his wife. And so this Ryan Conway, give us more details. What do you think about this? Mark accidentally kills Gemma or killed Gemma on purpose? Ryan, what is it? I love this. Love it.
Wow. And Zazetti says, if I am to take the Lexington letter in consideration, an episode intro that would make me to believe Mark and the others have multiple split personalities.
Ooh, now, do you know what the Lexington letter is, Kev?
I don't.
So this is one I had to Google too. Once again, I watched season 1 as a vibe. I didn't go down the rabbit hole, but apparently the Lexington letter was a free companion ebook written by the creators of Severance that was, out there that people could read, and it's considered part of the canon. So, so good.
You know what? It would be good if someone were to decide that they knew enough to do a podcast, that they might do some research. So, you know what? Maybe I'll have to read that before the next episode.
Okay.
My apologies, Zazetti. Nick Fortuna, a great loyal listener, said, I just binged the first season in just 2 days. It's so good.
Wow.
Milchick's ability to smile while laser cutting through you with his eyes terrifies me. A true double S.
Double S?
Sinister smile.
Ooh. And Echo Hoodie gave us this feedback. Echo Hoodie said, this is the first time I'm listening to Catfish and Bubba as a non-silo podcast.
Okay, that's so good.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, good.
He said there's a good thing there isn't a corresponding book to the series that has spoilers. We're all on the same boat, so we can speculate. Thank you, Echo Hoodie. So Echo Hoodie, I went to our website, doublepmedia.com, and I looked at all our podcasts. We started with the Joffrey podcast, and it's about Game of Thrones, and Catfish and I had both read Game of Thrones. So if you look at it, we have talked about approximately 41 either TV shows, movies, or books. And of those, pretty much half had some source material that we had read ahead of time. And some of those that didn't have like books or adaptations, it would be like Star Wars TV shows or Ash versus Evil Dead, where there were a bunch of movies we watched ahead of time before the show. So yeah, that is kind of our hook there, Echo Hoodie. So
all right, Bubba, let me read this because this is
let's hear it.
Roger says, Mark is on the board.
Whoa.
And connected to Kier. They also all have 3 personalities, not 2. They change into the third without ever knowing. There are numerous hints to this, like 3 beds, red, blue, and green always together. Mark speaking through the speaker is a clue. He's on the board. Roger,
do you agree, Catfish? Do you agree with Roger?
I don't know whether Roger's right or not. All I know is Roger just blew my mind.
Heck yeah. Someone with the handle ID's Apples wrote, Lumon Industries are refining the perfect subservient personality / mind that they can copy into alive bodies with dead minds. So here we go. Somebody brain dead, but the body still can breathe and heartbeats. And ID Apples continues. The shot at the end of the episode is Gemma with Cold Harbor written above it. Also included a microscopic view of axons and connections between neurons. Wow. They wrote the neurons in the frames are dead. Whoa. They believe Lumon is attempting to achieve a utopia where slaves are doing the work, and they're refined that the slaves are happy and content doing the work, while the quote-unquote real people live free of work outside. What do you think about this? ID Apple's thoughts here, Catfish.
Well, I think this is great, and they theoretically could do it already with everybody. But I mean, I don't know. I think if someone offered that to me, I might take it. So, but I wonder how many people, why there is for such a big company that has a lot of good PR, that this severance procedure is still very, very controversial.
For sure.
Oh, and then they said if they perfected a chip like that and they could put it in corpses or criminals, then the people on the outside wouldn't even have to work at all, severed or not. Oh,
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
People in jail. Holy cow.
Not
now,
nice.
Our new loyal listener, Tommy Shamalongdong, which I just love saying, said the first episode being all severed is like Silo being all in one silo for the first episode, which I think was a mistake.
Oh, no.
This episode was a huge letdown. They spent 10 hours of TV last season teasing us. There have been no questions answered. I have drastically lowered my expectations for season 2. There is no way they will top season 1 or be able to have a satisfying season if the trend of season 2, episode 1 continues. Tommy, bringing a long hammer on top of Severance.
Tommy, right. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I've loved it, but everybody is entitled, and we want to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
Stars Reflecting Sky wrote, it could be the case when Mark's wife got in an accident, he was given a crappy choice that she could live in some fashion as a severed person, but that he couldn't be with her. And so he could choose to sever himself, but also he wouldn't know each other. But it'd be some sort of consolation that they would both be alive, sort of. Stars Reflecting Sky continued, I just want them to finish this show Severance so we can know how it ends.
I love it. Well, there has been, along with my copious research in the background, I can tell you there's been no news that's come to me about whether they are any comments on the next season, or maybe like Silo, they'll say, boom, we're going to have seasons 3 and 4. Bubba, any info from you?
No, boy, it can't take 3 years to make the next season. They got to move this quicker, that's for sure.
They got to do it.
We have a bit more feedback on the season 2 premiere. Our good buddy No Pico Jake said, oh my God, double M's for Milchick Men. Catfish, great job at bullying Bubba into this podcast. No Pico Jake gave the first episode of season 2, 10 out of 10, and he says he's been waiting for years. Let's go, fellas.
I love it. DV says, I'm giving the episode an 8 because of the way they drag you back in this alternative timeline, only taking off a few points because we didn't get any real answers yet. Just more questions. My theory, they're making artificial brains based on goat cells. I love it. They're collecting brain-dead people as test subjects. Once the procedure works, they plan to resurrect the previous CEOs. Oh, probably Gemma is one of the first successful prototypes. Mark S. is in the best position to feel her personality in her file and erase her.
Oh, whoa. No. Our final bit of feedback for this week is from Caro Joe, who wrote, you guys had a really fun discussion. I give it a double G.
Double G?
For got 'em good. Because the amount of disinformation that Lumon is dishing out is diabolical.
Diabolical dishing of disinformation.
Triple D. Caro Joe continues, I agree that the search for Miss Casey will inevitably lead to the unraveling of the mysteries of the real reason for Lumon. I bet it does have something to do with putting memories into successors' brains. Did you notice how dead-eyed Helly's father was at the function? He did not look light of mind. Ooh, bring it back. Bring it back here. Boy, that would be something.
Well, I'd love it. Bubba, This is
Yeah.
all I could have asked for when we did this. When we did the first podcast, we hadn't gotten a lot of feedback yet, but this is the stuff we're getting now. You guys make this so entertaining, and you help me understand what's going on. Bubba is like Helly's dad. He's just angry at me when I don't understand things. So you guys explain things to me. We love it. My name is Catfish. You can hit me up at G to the man. That is GEETOTHEMAN on Instagram and Blue Sky.
My name's Bubba. You can find me on most social media like Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM, at Fit and Trim on social media. And next week, we will be back to talk about episode 3. Catfish, that's got to include, you would assume, both Innies and Outies. Is there anything special you need to see in episode 3?
Nothing special, but I would like to see, I'm excited to see how Devin and Mark try to figure out how they can make a connection to Innie Mark. That is going to be fascinating. And of course, like every episode, I expect maybe half a mystery to be solved and 3 more to be created. So I'm super excited for that. And we will talk to you next week on
Milchick
Man.